I'll give you a general idea of how to play against a certain matchup, what you don't want to do in a certain matchup, and maybe a few key moves for literally the whole cast. And this is like, what, 40 plus characters? I'll try to cover this in 30 minutes. I'll try to cover it in 30 minutes. As you know, Lidia is the new character in Season 4, the Karate Polish Prime Minister. Oh, yes. So how does the Lidia Hwoarang matchup look like? Well, based on her punishment, more importantly, her while standing punishment, it's quite bad. What do I mean by it's quite bad? As you can see here, her 11 frame punish is a while standing 4-2. Another character who has something similar like this is Leo. Leo's is while standing 4-1+2, and that gives knockdown. That's a very strong 11 frame while standing punish for lows. Most especially in Hwoarang's case, because he starts up a good amount of his offense and continues some of his offense, and even checks a lot and pokes in neutral, just like many other characters, but more pivotal to Hwoarang with lows, and most especially entering Flamingo. And since she has while standing 4-2, which is 25 damage and +8, that means she can freely check immediately, and she takes a lot of damage as well. And she has, since she's complete from 11, 12, 13, she has a 14, right? Yeah, 14. Then of course 15 would be a hop kick. So in that regard, she's complete. One of the few characters in this game who is absolutely complete, that requires less execution, dare I say, compared to other characters who may have a complete while standing punish kit. Namely, I guess, the 2D characters. Most of Hwoarang's lows, so if I put all of Hwoarang's lows here, right? So let's say we put the typical down back 3, we put down 4, down back 4 into, you know, right Flamingo. Because typically that's what happens, and when you do that, that low's -1. What else? Left Flamingo, down back 4, and of course, right foot forward, down 4. These are like most of the lows. But yes, of course, they're demonstrating with the lows. As you can see, this is -13. And of course, let's say the Lidia doesn't even punish optimally. It still doesn't matter because she gets 25 +8 or she gets a knockdown. And of course, if she does punish optimally, she has the choice to keep you standing at 30 damage or knock you down. And as you saw with the while standing 4, if it's near the wall, she can do a rage art, a guaranteed rage art. That's big. Again, that's big. Off a 13 frame punish, you have to remember that. And of course, if you do down 4-4, can she interrupt in between? She cannot. That's good. But at the same time, you're not gonna be letting this go. And if you let that go, she has a 15 frame launcher, which I forgot to mention earlier, but yeah, she does. And she can do a power kick as well, so she's very complete in that regard. And of course, her mix-up, what do you call it? Her options versus the RFS mix-up, the RFS F4 mix-up, that toothbrush. She has the generic option, so just a clean down 4 will do all the time. And I think if she blocks this, she gets a free FCDF too? No, she doesn't. Okay. She does not. So that balances out, but at the same time, just one generic down 4 is enough, and she'll be more or less fine for as long as you don't do what do you call it, RFS forward 4. Again, like most characters, most of the time they wouldn't have a 12 frame while standing punish. But here in Lidia's case, since she has this, like Leo, when you're fighting Leo, you watch out for this typically. But here, she has the option to either keep you standing or the option to knock you down for big damage. And free Oki mix-up. And of course, one of the other safest lows Hwoarang has is a -11. And she gets big damage as well off it. And if I cycle through all the other lows as well, you're gonna notice she keeps getting big damage over and over again. And of course, that's not to disregard her standing punishment. Her standing punishment is very good, but at the same time, slightly not as deadly compared to her. I mean, it's good. It is very good, that's for sure. But at the same time, I don't deem it as deadly in the matchup. So she has the classic 10 frame punish that enters stance, and typically they'll just do something as safe as that. 11. This is the key one, the 11. If the Lidia is punishing you really properly, but Hwoarang doesn't have that much, what do you call this, moves from standing that are like negative. So most of the punishes that you'll be doing, most of the punishes that she'll be getting are typically lows. And then if you're a little bit risky as a Hwoarang, let's say you're doing stuff like 1-2-4 RFS 4 for whatever reason, that's when this is gonna hurt. And of course, she's a really strong 14 frame punisher as well. Of course, from standing, she doesn't have like a 15. She does have a 15, which is this, right? But Hwoarang doesn't have like something that's super launch open. Most of his stuff is usually -14 down. The only thing that's super launch open is just back 3. And of course, she doesn't get that much damage off it. I mean, I can't do the blue sparks, but yeah, you get the point. Her combo variety off a hop kick isn't that much. But I mean, it's still deadly enough when you still get hit by it. And of course, in neutral, you'll be stepping towards the left, because if you step towards the left, you'll be avoiding her DF1, which is not an elbow, apparently. It's like a forearm, and her jabs. So most of the time, if you're stepping towards the left, you'll be fighting against FF4, DF4, and down 4. Those are the moves that are typically going to be catching you, and DF2. And of course, if they realign FF2, right? That's important. For the most part, it's not like she can super overwhelm Hwoarang. Hwoarang still has a chance to control. When he gets like the big mix-ups, he can still... So of course, even if Hwoarang has the ability to control a little bit more in the neutral, like most especially if he gets his big mix-ups, you still have to watch out for her punch parry, and of course her kick sabaki and punch sabaki. And of course, as Hwoarang, since you don't have elbows or knees, and the only move you have is a heal, and one other move that for some reason doesn't get reversed by Asuka's reversal, those moves again are still slow. So you still have to watch out for these. And since a lot of Hwoarang options that are very popular, like 1, 2, 3, Flamingo 1, like if I do it here, 1, 2, 3, Flamingo 1, you're not avoiding that as well. But she can of course do this one. So of course you have to know which sabaki she can use in a certain situation. That way you can avoid getting blown up that hard. I do this one, of course her lows, the one that prevents lows. You have to also watch out for that, of course, in certain situations as well. And of course, this move is safe. That's also that you have to remember, just like Asuka's new sabaki kick punch thing. But again, it's all timing based, and naturally, you have to mix up your timings based on how your opponent reacts, what they know, etc. in the matchup, and of course, via player experience and all that jazz. Of course, if you do let her run her engine, she'll be able to start doing slower moves like this, which keep you, as you can see, major plus frame advantage. And of course, big mix-ups. And of course, if you don't know how to get up properly after these, you're going to get hit by the cheese. Yes, sir, the cheese. And for the most part, she's more or less a straightforward character. Hwoarang doesn't have anything special to avoid these mix-ups, because again, this is plus 12, plus 15. Of course, if she does enter, just like what was circling around Twitter, what me posted, you can just jump back, including for the Rage Drive when they enter. Of course, Rage Drive gives a guaranteed Heaven and Earth, but not off FF2. As you can see, it turns into -5 and -7 respectively. So for the most part, the matchup isn't that bad regards to moreover neutral and offense. But when it comes to defense, most especially the Lidia's defense or punishment is very on point. Most especially the wall standing punishment, again, mind you. You are going to be in a hell of a situation. You're gonna be in a lot of pain for sure. This change is Lidia. Lidia, as you know, she got nerfed quite a bit in the Season 4 patch. More or less, what happened was they reduced the damage on some of her moves and increased frame reduction. So that's what I mean by frame nerfs here in this point. So certain moves have increased recovery, so you can punish it a lot easier, just like Lidia 3-2. That was very, very notorious for having like similar recovery like backlash like recovery. And by damage, it's like a bunch of her stuff. Heaven and Earth 1. Oh, Heaven and Earth. Heaven and Earth 1. DF1 plus 2. Down back 2. Etc. And forward 3. Not knocking down anymore on hit is a big deal, because this is probably her fastest low crushing tool. And this knocked down and, you know, gave wall splats as well. The fact that it no longer does that is a big deal. Even if Lidia... so the fact that Lidia also got changes to her mid options in Cat 1, which is now -10 on block, and then Cat 2, this is also -10 on block, means she's going to take a slight risk in regards to mid checking in her stances, even if she gets like major plus frames from both of these at plus 12, plus 15 respectively. And one of the bigger changes for Lidia is the fact that forward 1 plus 2, her whole string, Political Storm, her 14 frame Punisher, is now -15. So if a Lidia actually pulls out the whole thing, now Hwoarang gets DF2 in most ranges. And typically, if they do the whole string, they're always going to be in front of your face regardless. So that's really, really good for Hwoarang, instead of him just getting a 4-3 or a 4-3 plus 4. So the matchup is more or less going to be played the same. The only thing I really want to stress about the Lidia-Hwoarang matchup is that be careful with your lows, please. Because if you're not careful with your lows as Hwoarang, you are in a world of pain, and you're going to get eaten up, and you're going to be afraid of using your own lows, thus not starting up any offense or even checking your opponent in neutral with lows. And the Lidia will just control the space, control the pace with her good moves and good spacing and high recovery on whiff, and you're more or less dead. That's basically what I wanted to say. That's the only thing you need to know about the Lidia matchup so far. For Hwoarang, at least. And her hell sweep's still big. The fact that her forward 3 no longer knocks down means you have more chances to live, even if she gets the right read on low crushing one of your lows. And on 3-2, you can more or less react with up back 3-3 now. Before it was like a small window, but now you'll more or less get it consistently. Before, what you had to settle for was while standing 3 into FF3 or back 3, but now you're always going to typically get up back 3-3 to register as a punish, which is great. So the matchup didn't really change because her combo damage is now slightly decreased, so she's not going to do a ton of damage anymore. She's still going to do a lot of damage, but not a ton of damage. She can't risk as much. She can't press any of those spammable strings like 3-2 because the frames were reduced, so you can easily get an up back 3-3 punish without a doubt. And Political Storm, they do forward 1+2, the 14 frame punisher as a poke, and decide to do the whole thing. It's no longer negative 14, the matchup is negative 15 and always lands in your face. So Hwoarang's always going to get a clean DF2. And she can't take use of her advantage now for Cat 1 and 2 and transitioning to Heaven and Earth because the Rage Drive is no longer guaranteed into transition to get the Heaven and Earth 1+2 or 1 or 2 to mix it up, just in case they start ducking the 1+2 in Lydia's case. And the fact that it can be punch parried now as well for Hwoarang, so just in case you don't react, you could still react to both Heaven and Earth 1 and Heaven and Earth 1+2 because the 2s are low, you can't punch parry that. You can only punch parry highs mid punches. And if she does an option of FF2 or DF2 and does the mid option, those are both negative 10, so she takes a slight risk when she does that, since that's her best checking option in both those stances. So again, that covers the Lidia matchup changes. Akuma.